Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to another episode. We're happy that you guys are here. If it's your first time here, man, smash the subscribe button, smash the like button while you're at it. Really helps the algorithm. We're trying to push these videos up to the top so people can see them. We take time out of our day to provide all this content for you, so it's the least you could do, right? It's greatly appreciated. On this episode, I really wanted to talk about boiler failure and kind of the common causes to boiler failure. It's a topic that I think is taken a little bit too lightly, and I've seen on so many occasions such a lack of tender love and care towards this equipment. And any of you guys have been following us long enough know that we work on industrial equipment, so we're talking about big boilers, big BTUs, lots of fuel, and unfortunately also can be very dangerous. Now, obviously, if we're working inside the confines of safety and doing all the precautions that we set out to cover each time we're at the building, then you have less propensity for problems. With that being said, too many times have gone to buildings and seen situations where the boilers were completely, I want to say obliterated, it's probably not the right word, but neglect is probably the better word, right? Completely neglected, no preventative maintenance done on the job, no tender love and care, boilers leaking, boilers dirty, there's soot everywhere, dirt on the floors, just a complete lack of care for the equipment. And like anything else, man, you guys drive a car, you got to get oil changes, right? You have to have certain updates done to make sure you're maintaining that vehicle over its longevity. And unfortunately, in a lot of these buildings, either managers or owners bought buildings with heating systems in place, or at some point in the timeline that they had the buildings, they put heating equipment in, but just refused to maintain it. And a lot of that comes down to us. Unfortunately, I learned a lot of the business from my stepfather, which is fortunate. He taught me a lot. But where him and I really differed in a lot of ways was with preventative maintenance and making sure we're on top of the tune-ups and making sure the boilers are maintained. And I always looked at it from two ways, He always kind of looked at things from a dollars and cents perspective, where I try to see both sides. And as a business owner, somebody who's in this business, nothing covers two things more than doing preventative maintenance, right? You're not killing two birds in one stone is what I was looking for. But I got tongue twisted in a moment. But killing two birds in one stone, preventative maintenance is that, because for us, that's the quiet season, which is spring to through summer, back to fall. But with that being said, we also need to stay busy, right? So we would start doing preventative maintenance. But it really, like I said, going back to killing two birds with one stone, it keeps my company busy, but it also takes a lot off our plate when winter comes. It takes a lot off the customer's plate, because the more preventative maintenance, I don't have the percentages in front of me, but almost every year, all the customers want it. They almost call us requesting it, and that's how much of an impact it has. So one level of boiler failure is a lack of maintenance, okay? A lack of care, a lack of checking things for failure. As an example, in New York City, we deal with a lot of natural gas, and we use fuel oils. Still, fuel oil a little bit less, but with fuel oil is very messy. Again, when it comes to maintenance, if you're not on top of taking care of your boiler equipment or your oil pumps or your belts on your oil pumps, or any number of things on some of the industrial equipment, it's going to be filthy in the room. You're going to have soot everywhere. I've been to boiler rooms where there was soot covering every square inch of the boiler room. The walls, the burner, the boiler, every square inch of it was covered in soot, and it was disgusting. It was very hard to work. You almost had to go in first and wash everything down before even touching it, because the minute you touched any component, your hand was covered in oil. So preventative maintenance is a huge one. Maintaining your low water cutoffs. The thing is, the safeties that were put in place over years because of other failures. That's how I believe the world always works, right? We learn from our mistakes, and then we find a way to do the best we can to avoid a secondary mistake in the same way. So At some point, boilers started to dry fire, which is also one of the biggest things. But dry firing a boiler does not happen on its own. It's not a one-off thing. It is due to failed components, failed low water cutoffs, failed feeders in a lot of cases, right? But like really, it's the failed low water cutoff that's not indicating to the equipment to shut off because the water in the boiler is not enough to cover the majority of the steel. Like for us, we do a lot of Scotch marine style boilers, or cast iron boilers the same. They're meant to have water in the vessel, and then you're heating that water and heat exchanging and all. That's not what this video is about. I'm not, like, I've talked about that on other videos, but you're supposed to maintain, let's say, this water level. If my water level's here, then my feeder and low water cutoff should be working simultaneously to either maintain the water level or shut the equipment and not let it fire when that water level's low. So when you have a lack of maintenance now and you're not testing these components, although for us, when we go to the job, it's like become a mandatory thing now where even if you're not there for preventative maintenance, you're taking the time, flushing out the safeties, checking the water feeder, making sure it works, making sure the low water cutoffs are shutting the boiler off, right? So like all of these things kind of intertwine into each other. You're doing preventative maintenance, then your components are working well, which you'll usually avoid one of the biggest catastrophes, which is dry firing the boiler. And dry firing the boiler is not exactly what everybody thinks it is. I'm pretty sure I did a video on this too. But in just a quick synopsis, like dry fire happens when the boiler runs low on water or almost empty on water, but it's running still. So the fire's inside an empty steel vessel or cast iron vessel, and it overheats the steel or metals that are inside whatever equipment you're working on. But that's not really where the catastrophe happens typically. Now, yeah, if you overheat, it can. But typically what happens is there'll be a no heat coil or a hot water issue because you need water in the vessel to produce those two things. A super, a manager, or a homeowner in some cases will go into the boiler room, realize the boiler's low on water, add cold water to a flaming hot metal, and there's your catastrophe, right? And I don't mean to say it lightly, I'm just kind of glossing over it because I've already discussed this in a video. But I want to make this clear to you guys, like preventative maintenance is, I believe, where it all starts. So if you're doing regular maintenance on a job, it's less likely to have problems. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, because it can happen, but there are usually other factors. But typically the failure of a boiler happens in the beginning when you're not maintaining the equipment. Maybe you're not putting chemicals in. I believe in chemicals, some guys don't. Make sure you're maintaining your steam systems, your hydronic systems. Make sure you're flushing where you need to, and make sure you're flushing the boiler where it needs to, because that's a lot of times where the boilers fail. You get boilers that are mudded up. I mean, for us, we do a lot of tubes, so you'll see a lot of these guys are lazy as and then in a Scotch marine style boiler, which is round, right? And then there's tubes all over, and then the water surrounds it, but that water circulates through the vessel. And when they pull tubes out, they let them drop to the belly. So now in the belly of the boiler, you'll have 6 tubes, 5 tubes, 2 tubes, even 1 tube, but it reduces the circulation through the vessel. So another thing where the boilers fail. A lot of it really comes down to negligence. It comes down to negligence, and it comes down to poor ownership, right? Because for us, we deal with management companies. I can only be as responsible as they allow me to be. Meaning, if I go to the job and I say, yo, this boiler's in condition, we really should do a preventative maintenance on it, go through it. They can choose to do it, they can choose not to do it. But it's also up to me to choose to not go or to go. And then also, if we go and they denied the preventative maintenance, I have to make sure my guys are thorough when they do go. We got to make sure the equipment's working the way it's supposed to. We got to make sure it's in good working order, because there's a lot of liabilities, right? This isn't a liability conversation, but I'm just saying there's so many things to think about. But typically for me, going back to the initial topic, a boiler in itself fails when maintenance is not taken care of. When you're not being thorough, when you're not flushing, when you're not checking, when you're not doing the things that the boiler really needs, your boiler will fail, and sometimes in a very nasty and dangerous way. And going back to tying this all into that liability, it's my responsibility as a business owner to not only for myself, but to train my men to make sure that when they're going to the jobs, they're thorough in this way as well. Because the failure is really something that could be prevented almost 99 of the time. Obviously, there are one-off situations. That's life. Happens. There are things that are unforeseen. But most of the time when I've seen jobs fail, it's because of negligence. Somebody did something. Somebody jumped a lower to cutoff at. Somebody jumped out something behind the relay. I mean, again, I've had outliers where things happen, but typically in your preventative maintenance and how you show up to the job is the thing that can prevent the system from failing, from the boiler from failing. So be mindful when you guys are out in the field. Take your time, look around, flush out your lower cutoffs, flush out your feeders, make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to, make sure the boiler's clean, make sure you have good combustion, make sure you don't have high CO. Just really what it comes down to is taking time, be thorough, don't be a douchebag, don't jump stupid out, not tell anybody. Just take your time, do the maintenance you're supposed to do. If you're not doing the preventative maintenance on it, at least go the extra mile and make sure everything, safeties are working the way they're supposed to, because it really is the thing that comes between catastrophe and operation. So I appreciate you guys being here, man. I hope you got something from this video, from this training, from this conversation. If you have any comments, concerns, thoughts on this topic, please drop a comment below, man. That's what it's all about. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, help us out. Like every other time, man, I wish you guys nothing but the best. I hope you keep kicking life's ass, because that's all there is to it, man. Show up every day. Show up for your family. Show up for your people. Keep killing it. Have a great day. Peace.